Hello, my name is Martin Perez, and in this screencast I'm going to show you how to create voice-powered applications in Grails. And I'm going to use Tropo's Grails Web API library that is available at grails.org/plugin/tropo-webapi-grails. And in this page basically you will find documentation about this plugin, a 5 minutes tutorial, and also several code snippets that show you how to perform typical tasks like sending SMS messages or asking questions to the user or transferring calls, etc. So now, for the sake of this test, I'm going to use the latest version of Spring Source Toolsuite that has very nice Groovy and Grails support built in. But first you need to add that support. So what you need to make sure is that if you go to Dashboard and to Extensions, you've got the Grails extension and the Groovy extensions installed. Okay, so if I click here to show my extensions, if I search for Groovy, I can find here the Groovy Eclipse plugin. And if I search for Grails, I can find here the 2 Grails extensions installed. So if you don't have these extensions installed, you need to do it first. So let's create the Grails project. So new, now Grails project, and I'm going to call it Tropo Grails sample. And basically this Grails plugin is invoking all the commands for me, which is quite handy. So the Grails application is now ready. So the next step is to create a controller. I'm going to call it Tropo. Okay, and this is creating the controller. And now the last step is I need to add the Tropo's Grails Web API to my project. So what I do is I right click on the project, I go to Grails Tools and then Grails Plugin Manager. The Grails Plugin Manager shows me the list of all the plugins available to my application. If I search for Tropo, I find the Tropo Web API Grails. So let's install it and click OK. And this is going to basically download all the required jars and dependencies to run Tropo applications in Grails. Okay, so we are now all set. Now, if you are familiar with the Web API model, when a user calls or sends a text message to your application, what is going to happen is that the Tropo Cloud will send a post request to your web application, and that request is in JSON format. So the first thing we're going to do is to read that request and print it to the screen. So what we do is JSON equals request, which is a special Grails variable, JSON. And now JSON is a converter that we need to import, and that basically reads the request and parses it and transforms it to JSON. So now we do println and JSON, and we save and we run our Grails application. So right click, run as, Grails command, run app. Okay, while the server starts up, let's go to tropo.com. I've already created here a sample web API application that is pointing to the IP address of my server, and then there is Tropo Grails sample, which is the web context, and then Tropo is the name of the controller, and index is the name of the action, of Groovy's Grails' action in this case. Tropo gives us a Skype voice number, so what I've also done is to add that Skype number to my Skype. Okay, so let's go back to Spring. The server is already running, and let's call it. Yeah, let's go. So we call the phone, call the application, and the call has been refused, but that's okay, because if we zoom here, you'll find the actual JSON object, okay, that we were printing to the screen. So this is a JSON object that you can access to, and So for example, we could do things like if JSON.initialText and then do something with the initial SMS text. So for example, when someone sends you an SMS message, basically initial text property will have some content. This is not the case, but this gives you an idea of how you can use the JSON parser. Okay, so let's do now some Tropo stuff. The main Tropo class in this library is Tropo Builder. So we do something like dev builder equals new Tropo Builder. That's it. So now Tropo Builder is a Groovy builder that lets you create, offers you a new DSL, a Tropo based DSL that lets you create Tropo applications in a very meaningful way. Like you can do things like builder.tropo, then open brackets and then say something. Say hello Martin. We are glad to hear you again. Okay. And finally, what we need to do is to render the builder's content to the response. So we do builder.render response. And that's it. We save the application and we call the phone.
Hello, Martin. We are glad to hear you again.
Okay, so that's cool. You think about it. We've created a voice-powered application. We use 5 lines because all the other stuff is basically JSON handling. But only these 5 lines we are able to, answer a phone, which is quite cool in Grails. So let's do now something more complicated, like asking some question and getting the answer from the user. So what we do is ask. We give a name to the question, let's call it question, and timeout 20 seconds. And then we say something like which department you wish to be forwarded to. And we do something like choices, and we say sales, help, complaints, or exit, for example. And then we can handle some events like on the event of continue, which means all is okay. We go to result. Now result in this case is another URL. In this case is another action on your application, on your Grails application. Okay, and what we are going to do is to read the JSON again. So this you can find the difference. So request.json, JSON. That's it. So let's save and let's call the application.
Hello, Martin. We are glad to hear you again. Which department you wish to be forwarded to?
Sales. Okay, so that's it. That was really cool. If we zoom to the response, here you can find the result, which is another JSON object, which contains the output of the ask query. And if we scroll to the right, you can find here the actions map that has a concept, and that is sales. That's the word that I've told to my phone, to my Skype phone. So what we can do is, for example, read that variable like def or def input equals, and this is json.result.actions.concept. That's it. And now we create another builder. Let me zoom, you see it much better. And we can do builder.tropo and then, I don't know, like for example, say thank you. We will now forward you to the input, that variable department. And we can play some song. Play, and let me copy the song name because I've got it here in my text pad. Yeah, we copy the song name. Yeah, that's it. So that's going to play an MP3, and we could even do things like transfer to and then a phone number like 34 or 0034 7707138, and finally we could hang up or create a conference or do many things basically. And of course, finally we need to render the response. And yeah, let's save it and let's run the application. Let's call it.
Hello, Martin. We are glad to hear you again. Which department you wish to be forwarded to?
Sales.
Thank you. We will now forward you to the sales department.
And the song is playing. Okay, I'm going to stop the song because it takes 3 minutes to end, but you get the idea. I think we've created here a quite cool application, a quite cool voice application, very simply, in very few lines of code, like 10 lines of code or about 10, and 5 or 6 more lines of code here. So in 16 or 20 lines of code you can create a very simple IVR system. Obviously you will need to handle more events like timeouts, like errors and all this stuff, but you get the idea. It's running on Grails, which is also cool, so you can use all your legacy Java code, or you can basically integrate this stuff with your existing Java applications, which is also cool. And that's it. I really hope you like this example, and I really hope you use our Tropo's Grails Web API library. Thank you very much.